This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's pod. This is a show for the week of September 18th, 2023. And Phil, it's the middle of September. It feels just like yesterday you were at Walt Disney World. It was August.
I know.
This show this week, we're going to wrap up Phil's 3-week-long trip report. I don't even know what the first day was, but here we are with our Animal Kingdom Day, Hollywood Studio Day, and Epcot Day, and some overall trip questions are going to be answered. We're going to completely ignore that there was a black bear in Frontierland in the Magic Kingdom today. Were there any pictures online about that eventually? Because they closed it down pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, I didn't see any pictures of the bear other than because the news helicopters started coming in and they had a photo of the people who came in to deal with the bear, capturing the bear. So that was the only photo of the bear I saw.
All right, very good. As a reminder, every week, find us on all our social media on Twitter or X, depending on what you want to call it, at the DBC Pod, Insta, Facebook, YouTube channel, etc. All at the DBC Pod. And make sure if you're on YouTube, leave a comment, give us a thumbs up. It really helps us out in the algorithm thing. And of course, you can always find us on a daily to hourly to a minute-by-minute basis on Discord. So hop in, find the links everywhere on social media. They're plastered everywhere. And if you can't find them, you can always reach us on the aforementioned social networks. That being said, I just want to get right into this, Phil. So to recap, last week we talked about your day one, your arrival day, ending with Artist Point. Your second day, a full day at Magic Kingdom, no Genie Plus, and you managed to do basically almost everything. Kudos to you. A lot of people on Discord were very proud of you that you were able to do that. I have some questions about that. We kind of briefly talked about headspace and being able to be relaxed, that type of thing. That'll be a big topic later on once we're done. And then, of course, 2 weeks ago, we went strictly over your party date and kind of have your first party type of thing. So we're not going to talk about the party. We're not going to talk about Magic Kingdom finally. We're actually going to the other parks this week, which will be great. And Phil, I think we left off, you had a full day at the Magic Kingdom. You got back very late. You were able to sleep in the second day and go right back to the party. If you're really curious on what that is, you can listen to last week, and you're talking about how the parks were kind of different.
Yep.
But what happened day 3, or actually day 4? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Day
So
4? What happened?
Yeah, so it was our day 4. This would be our second regular park day, and we were going to Hollywood Studios. This was also the day the hurricane was coming by. Fortunately, we didn't get a direct hit or anything like that, but we were kind of worried about it and how bad would it be? And it definitely impacted the day somewhat, but I'll get to that in a little bit.
Well, let me ask you this. So when did you become aware that a hurricane was bearing down on you? Does it before you went down?
Oh, yeah, it was definitely before we go down. I mean, hurricanes are relevant to my job, my day job. So, and kind of impacting insurance losses and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm all over those websites and following tracking and stuff like that. So I kind of knew there was one, potentially impacting us. As I was tracking it, it was heading north and kind of kept going north. So I figured it wouldn't be a direct hit where we'd have to worry about hunkering down in our hotel room or anything like that. But we knew it was going to impact, how wet or not we were.
Yes. So what time did you wake up? So you're doing Hollywood Studios this day. It was a Wednesday. I think I have you down here in notes. Was there – I can't remember because we talked about this, I think, either on Discord or in previous shows before you went down, the order in which you did the parks. So why did you do Hollywood Studios this day versus any other?
Yeah, so we actually had flip-flopped this with Epcot because we were able to do the Journey of Water preview, so we had to move that to Friday. But the reason we were either going to do Epcot or Hollywood Studios this day was those were the days we were thinking of getting Genie Plus. And after the Halloween party, we knew we weren't going to hit rope drop. So that's why we were going to get Genie Plus, and we were going to try to do the sleep in and stack method where we would get Genie Plus, get our first, lightning lane at 7 a.m., but then kind of go back to bed and have an easy morning, get some more rest, and get to the park later.
Okay, so you're up at 7. What time did you eventually get to the park?
Yeah, so we got up at 7 and we were able to book our Lightning Lane for Slinky Dog Dash. We went back to bed until about 9:30.
Okay.
And then we got up, we had leftover Gideon's cookies from the yesterday morning. So that was our breakfast of that.
Breakfast of Champions.
Yep. 11 a.m. rolled around so we could book our next Lightning Lane. We got it for Runaway Railway. We finally left the room and we were on a bus pretty much right at noon.
Oh, okay. So it was like an early park entry. You weren't going for like full on, like, let's go at like 3-4 o'clock. This was
like sleep
a late
in
start, but late,
yeah,
but still in the morning, right? Okay.
Exactly.
So what did you do the whole morning? So you woke up at 7, you got your stuff. Now I know you aimed for Slinky Dog. Why did you get Runaway Railway number 2?
That was just another priority ride. We kind of asked the kids where are all the things you want to do. And I mean, Slinky Dog is one we wanted to do. And we knew that one was harder to get and could have a longer line. Yep. Also, if we knew rain was coming, that could impact the operations of that. So having like a return time and stuff would be good. Runaway Railway is it's a newer ride and we haven't done it as many times. And it's it's one that the whole family likes. So we picked that one.
Okay. So you get there, set the scene. What's the weather like at noon? Did you just basically leave your room, go right over?
Yeah, we kind of just slept in and took it easy. Kind of we're on our tablets or whatever like that. Kind of had like a restful morning. Went over to the bus stop and heard some people like at the bus stop or on the bus. They had some of their family members went over early, and I guess everyone was worried about the hurricane, so they said the park was dead like super early. They said they were like basically had no wait for Rise of the Resistance. They did it like multiple times and stuff like that. So, but it seemed like a lot of people were doing what we did, which kind of like let's see how it is, and then we'll head in. So it wasn't necessarily raining when we were going, but it certainly looked like it was going to come. And we got into the park and people needed some more coffee and some other food and snacks and stuff like that. So we stopped at the Starbucks there to get some coffee and drinks and stuff like that. And once we came out of that, it started to rain some. So we actually stayed kind of under the covering just to sort of finish our coffee and kind of see like, okay, is it going to get harder or is it going to lighten up? Excuse me. Fortunately, it did lighten up. So then we went over to ride Runaway Railway.
So were you able to get Slinky for later in the day? Did you try to modify it? How were you juggling?
Yeah. So Slinky Dog, we kind of got what we got, which as long as it was in the afternoon, we were good. It was like a 4 o'clock time slot, 4:30. So we were good with that. I would say in this, that one is definitely still popular. We had less ability to modify that. I'd say everything else that we wanted in the park, and this became true for the other parks too, we could modify to wherever we wanted. So it wasn't an issue. A lot of times it was because you have to take the next one. It was like, okay, well, we'll take that, but then we'll keep modifying it to later. But we felt like with Slinky Dog, you didn't have as much flexibility with that one. So we kind of felt like we had to stick to that time.
All right. So before we get to like weather and food and stuff like that, I like the way we did Magic Kingdom Day where you just kind of listed off all the rides that you did. So I know you have a list in front of you. You started off Runaway Railway, and then you ended the day, I'm assuming, with was Fantasmic up and running?
Fantasmic, yep. Mm-hmm.
And so what did you do that whole day? Just give me a list.
Yep. So we did Runaway Railway first, and then we had at 1 p.m. we booked Lightning Lane from Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. So that was the next one we did after Runaway Railway, which I guess now that the kids are getting a little older, my 2 older ones were the pilots, and we actually did halfway decently. We got 2 containers of coaxium. So I kind of put notes here. I think some ways this is an underrated ride that we always have a lot of fun. And it's one of those rides where you're getting off. Everyone's kind of talking about how we did and what we did, so I think that one's kind of moving up the list a little bit. I think
I still like this ride better than Rise, in my opinion. It's more fun, I think.
So after that, we then did Rise of the Resistance riding Standby. And from when we got in line to the first kind of pre-show was 23 minutes.
That's awesome.
So that's not bad at all. My son and my oldest daughter were using the app with the decoder, if the data pad to kind of like scan things and do puzzles and stuff. So that definitely helped pass the time as well. Definitely had some elements of the ride were in B mode, which wasn't great, but still pretty cool ride. All the stuff that works is still amazing. Once we got out of that, though, that's when the rain really started coming down. And that was also when our Slinky Dog Lightning Lane was due.
Uh-oh.
So most of us put on ponchos, except for me, because I don't care if I get wet. And my youngest daughter didn't because she said she didn't care if she got wet. Well, that would come back to bite us a little bit later. But we like trudged over to Slinky Dog. We got in line, waiting. We're literally the next people to board, and they have to shut it down because there's lightning in the area.
Oh, no good.
So we're just kind of like, well, what do we do? We're just kind of waiting because they were like basically trying to see, they have to wait a little while before they dump the queue and stuff like that. After about 20 minutes, they said, look, it's going to be a while. You can either wait, or because we had the lightning lanes, they were able right there to turn them into like anytime lightning lanes.
Mm-hmm.
While we were waiting, we had also grabbed a lightning lane for Toy Story Mania. So we went over to do that. And then we stopped in the gift shop to get a new outfit for my youngest because she was freezing in the air conditioning because she was soaking wet. So she, I guess, made out well with that. And then we were really trying to decide what we wanted to do because people were kind of wet and cold and not super happy. And, I said the theme or the recurring term we used a lot on this trip was regrouping. We had to kind of stop and regroup and said, what are we going to do from here? At this point, we know we were hungry. We hadn't really had lunch. None of the in-park options were sounding great to us. So one thing, we decided to actually leave the park, which I know sounds kind of crazy because we got there late. But we took the Skyliner because that was one thing that we knew would make my son happy. He was pretty grouchy. We went over to Caribbean Beach to have like an early dinner, I guess, at Sebastian's Bistro.
Oh, very nice.
So my family had eaten there when my wife went down with the moms and kids trip, but I had never eaten there before. I really liked it. I thought it was almost like, you can almost call it like a hidden gem. I don't think a lot of people eat there, but you get really good food, a ton of it. I mean, it's not the cheapest thing because it's like an all you can eat, but it's a lot cheaper than, character meals and stuff like that. So we took, a little bit of time to kind of rest and recover and fill our bellies and kind of dry out. We actually stopped at the gift shop to get some more dry socks. And then the rain had calmed down, so we headed back on the Skyliner. So just to give you a little bit of timing about this, we left the park at around 4:30. And then we were back, and the next thing that was on our schedule was to build droids at the Droid Depot. So we were building droids at 6:45. So it was just over 2 hours. So considering we left the park and everything, I didn't think that was too bad. So we're back in. This was my son Peter. He's for a while now, this was the number one thing he wanted to do, was build a new droid. He wanted to build the BB unit. So this was his main souvenir. So he was doing that, and of course his older sister saw how much fun he was having and how he was going to have this new droid, and she didn't have a droid, so she decided to change her mind, and this was going to become her big souvenir too. So she did one of the chopper units. So we spent a good amount of time in the Droid Depot.
Time
droids.
and money.
And money. Yeah, no kidding. But at least they're active toys and things they can do stuff with, and not just collecting dust and stuff like that.
Sure.
But yes, it definitely wasn't a cheap day. Between that and a table service meal, it was a kind of a pricey meal. After that, the other lightning lane we had gotten then was for Rock and Roller Coaster. That's my youngest's favorite ride. She's a little thrill demon. So we walked over there to do that. My son decided he didn't want to ride that. He just wasn't feeling it. Okay. So what I decided was I'll go with him and we'll go get in line for Fantasmic. My wife takes the girls to go ride that. And it kind of worked out well because they weren't really lining people up because there was just one Fantasmic show. You just went right into the theater. So we got great seats. We were like right in the middle, 10 rows up or whatever. So we weren't in the splash zone or anything. And the girls, by the time they finished up and got into the park, into the theater and stuff, they were only like maybe 10, 15 minutes before show started. We got in there about 45 minutes before the show started. So they still would have gotten decent seats, but we certainly got much better seats by doing it the way we worked out.
So you've been in the park now, 6 hours total-ish, roughly? Right?
Yeah, so the show's at 8:30. We got there at noon and then take out 2 hours. So about 6 hours or so.
So you were there 6 hours. You did all of Star Wars, Toy Story Land, Rock and Roller Coaster, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I guess the only big thing that you didn't do was Tower of Terror.
Yeah, and we actually had gotten a lightning lane for that as well, but we just didn't have time to fit it in. Like if we were really rushing to do ran over to do Rock and Roller Coaster, then we probably could have done Tower of Terror. I also was thinking maybe we could do that after Fantasmic, but it's once Fantasmic starts, all the rides shut down because what we did after Fantasmic was we had a post-park close reservation at Oga's Cantina.
Right.
So I didn't know if like, okay, well, I still have a lightning lane. Can I go on to Tower Terror? But no, all that stuff was closed and stuff down. Literally, the only thing open then that you can get to is Oga's, and you have to keep showing all the cast members your like reservation to let you past and
Sure.
stuff like that. So yeah. So then we did Oga's, which I find that place fun. I do think it's missing a little bit more entertainment or more interactivity. Considering now all the drinks are pre-mixed, it's a little pricey, but it's still fun and it's definitely cool. When you leave late at night, there's literally no one there. It was almost like creepy because the cast members are like, okay, yeah, the exit's that way. It's like, okay, I don't see another living soul that way, but okay, I guess we'll walk that way. And like Galaxy's Edge is a little confusing to navigate, or at least it is for me. So we're kind of wandering around. I'm like 90% sure I'm going the right way, and it's like dark and
I'm always sure I'm going the right direction at Galaxy's Edge, and then I turn around and be like, "Am I going the right way?"
exactly.
And you get lost. And I was there. We were there late in our Labor Day trip 2 years ago, and at night it was awesome. And like you get back onto the main boulevard right in front of Mickey Minnie's, and like there's nobody there, or like you maybe see like 5 people like 100 yards in front of you, and that was pretty darn cool. I dug that. It was pretty cool. Okay, so I want to move on to the next day. So you're closing out Hollywood Studios, almost literally, probably the last people.
Oh yeah, we were definitely like the park was already closed. We were there. One thing that was interesting was we're walking towards our buses, and the guy was like, "Where are you going?" And we're like, "Port Orleans." And he goes over. He's like, "Get on that." But like, he talked to the bus driver, and we just got. I think it was a Saratoga Springs bus or whatever. But since nobody was there, he's like, "Take them to Port Orleans Riverside. Don't make them walk all the way down to like the Port Orleans Riverside spot."
You got a magic.
That's how few people there were. At that
That's
point.
pretty good. Okay, so the next day was going to be your Animal Kingdom Day.
Yep.
If I remember in Discord, things did not go exactly to plan. So what were you planning at this time?
So the planning point was we knew this was the one day where we were going to have like an early morning after a late night. Everything else was, if it was a late night, then we had we could sleep in or whatever.
Sure.
So the plan was to do an early morning, kind of get through everything at Animal Kingdom we wanted, and leave, 3, 4, maybe 5 o'clock at the latest, and do more stuff back at the resort and stuff like that. We wanted to have that evening to do resort stuff. So, and we weren't going to get Genie Plus. So obviously the earlier we could get there, the better for things that we wanted to do.
What was the open? Is that 8:30 or 7:30 open for you at that time?
So fortunately, they were still doing the 9 a.m. regular opening. So 8:30 with the early entry. So it wasn't the super early that I know sometimes Animal Kingdom get. So I'd set the alarm for 7. No one was getting out of bed. Moved it to like 7:30. Nobody's getting out of bed. At 8:30, people finally start getting to go. And meanwhile, I thought we'd already, not necessarily be there, but probably on our way by then or whatever. And then everybody's kind of groggy, and my son's a little grumpy, and he declares that he's starving, but nothing in the room looked like anything he would like, even though we specifically bought snacks that we know he likes. But that's so anyway. So we were like, "Well, do you want like real breakfast?" He's like, "Yeah, okay." So we stop at the quick service location at our resort, get some breakfast, which of course he wound up eating like 2 bites of, and then declared himself not hungry anymore. It was just definitely one of those mornings. So then we took the bus from the main lobby area. One thing that was fun though was right at that time while we were waiting for the bus, characters came into the lobby, which if you see those like the bus that goes around that has like the 50th kind of coloring. So there was, I think it was Goofy, Pluto, and Donald started meeting in the lobby. So we saw them from the bus stop. So some of us went over to go meet them. Didn't have a ton of time, but we did get to see, I guess one thing we noticed at Port Orleans Riverside, there were quite a few people with dogs. I don't know if it was people like local that came there because of the hurricane and stuff, but there were quite a few dogs. Watching Pluto meet a dog was pretty cute.
That's kind of neat, yeah.
The downside, though, was we were using those signs in the bus stop that said, like, okay, here's when the next bus is coming, and it said we had like 15 minutes or whatever. Well, apparently that was wrong, because then a bus showed up, and my wife's texting and calling me like, you got to get back here. The bus is here. And the bus driver's like, I can't wait, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but you're like 10 minutes, 15 minutes early. What do you mean you can't wait? Eventually, she talked him into waiting like a couple of minutes, but we literally had to sprint there to like get on the bus before we'd miss it. But it is what it is. We got to the park pretty much right around 11.
So I have to imagine in your head, you're like, the vacation's going all wrong. Like,
Well, at least the
what
day,
am I
yeah.
doing with my life at this point? My life is a failure. The spreadsheet's all wrong, and I know you're getting anxious. I can just see like
Yep.
the sweat coming down, like all my plans going to waste because my son needed breakfast, and you're
Yeah.
muttering under your breath. I've been there, and I've done that a thousand times. I know exactly what you're feeling because I am you. I completely understand this. Okay, so you get there at 11. I'm assuming you had a traditional Animal Kingdom park rope dropping strategy to do. What is now your augmented strategy?
Yeah. So now
for the
we're
park?
basically asking like, okay, well, what do people want to do? We're here. We're going to just play it out. Obviously we're not rope dropping Pandora or anything like that. So we were just checking kind of the wait times and saying what was low, like what is something that people want to do that's low. And my son was interested in doing dinosaur. It had a 5-minute wait, and that was kind of close on the direction. So we went over and did dinosaur. Definitely reminded me why I will not be upset if they retheme this ride. I mean, I love dinosaurs. If they want to just enhance it and make it like Dinosaur 2.0, then great. But it's just bouncing around in the dark. It's not a good ride.
Yeah, it's not a good ride.
Then, of course, my youngest requests that we do Triceratops spin. So, of course, that's what we're doing because this is what you definitely do when you're already worried about your park hours because you got there later than you wanted. You ride dinosaur and Triceratops spin. Then we did get up to Expedition Everest, which is one of the things I really wanted to do because we didn't ride it last time. We used rider swap because my youngest didn't want to do it. I don't think she likes the backwards part.
Okay.
And then after that is then when we had the one thing we had planned for today.
What was the wait time at Expedition Everest? Do you remember? Was it quick?
It was pretty quick. It was like, because obviously the first time through, we went through the standby line. It was like it was less than 10 minutes. It was like 9 minutes or something like that. Yeah.
If the wait time's less than 10 minutes, I call that a walk on.
Yeah.
Right?
It wasn't like literally a walk on. It was basically like, you had to walk through the whole queue. And then, I think it was like right for that last stretch before you get outside that we had to wait. So yeah, it was like 8-10 minutes, something like that. So we had the one big thing we had planned for today, which we didn't actually have it booked. We just did a walk up. But my wife and I did a lunch date at Tiffin's, which was the nice restaurant there that Joe Rohde helped design and stuff like that. That's connected to Nomad Lounge. We were interested in trying it, something we've never done. And we thought this might be a nice break. So what we did was my oldest took the other kids. They went up to Rafiki's Planet Watch and to Affection section and kind of did all that sort of stuff. While my wife and I walked over to Tiffin's and had a really, really nice meal. And again, it was just another nice chance to sit and relax and kind of regroup and stuff like that.
Have you and your wife ever done an adult only trip before?
Yes, we have.
Like, I want to say it was like 3 or 4 years ago.
No, it was more than that because it was right when Pandora opened. It was like one of
so 6 years ago then.
Yeah, so it was like one of those groups. So it was before COVID and stuff like that. It was for a group event where they had rented out Pandora and stuff like that. So
that's right. I do remember that story now. I just remember being there with my wife. We did Sanaa. Like to me, again, this is going to tie into the vacation discussion. When you can kind of take a deep breath and just sit down, not have to worry about the kids and everything else like that. I think that's awesome. So do you want to do like a quick review of the food since you
so we really like Tiffin's. It's a really nice restaurant, tons of artwork, and the cast members there, the servers really know a lot about it, and so that you can ask lots of questions and they can explain things. Excuse me. The food's obviously, kind of African and Asian inspired. One thing we noticed was a lot of things sounded like things that would be spicy or mentioned like it had a spice thing. So we would always ask like, how spicy is this? Because is this like legit, like, or whatever? And then the guy would always assure us it's like, it's Disney spicy. It's like, it's not really spicy or whatever. So yeah. And we got things that were labeled as spicy and, they had a little bit, but it really wasn't much of it. So I guess one of my hot takes is we got several appetizers to share. And then I actually got one of the appetizers as my main as well, but they have a bread service there. And I think my hot take is that I liked it more than the one at Sanaa.
Really? What was different about it?
It was just like at Sanaa, you get 3, or the breads are kind of similar, and then you have a whole bunch of little like dipping things to try. This was it was set up in a tower, and it was 3 very different breads, and then each one was paired with a different sort of sauce or dipping thing. And I just found it had more variety, especially in the bread. And I don't know, it's just more different and unique, and I just really liked. The one at Sanaa works really well, especially if you're a larger group. Sure. But I think for like a couple or something like this, I really like this bread service here. We also got the cauliflower, We got the salad, which uses it's all ingredients that were grown at the Land Pavilion.
Okay.
And then my wife got the noodle dish, and then I got the pork belly appetizer as my main. And it was all really good. And I think my wife had got a wine, I got a beer, and it was just a nice time to kind of relax and chill. And
so you were able to relax with your 3 kids off on a train somewhere
Yep.
very far away. Awesome.
Yep.
Good for you, Dad. Good for you. I'm either if my oldest is 10, so we've got some time before we're able to do that. But I'm either right now I'd be paranoid as all heck. Like my kids are gone, right? But like, when my oldest is 14, it might be at that point I'd be so used to be like, yeah, get out of here. Just come back.
Yeah, I mean, this was the first time we had done them that, where she watched the other 2 and left for a while. She has gone, like last time in December, she went off by herself. She has a phone. She's responsible. She's the only one that has the phone, but like she's good about it. And we know she would reach out and ask questions and stuff like that. And we kind of feel like, she's in the park. They're not going to leave the park and stuff like that. So again, give it a try and see how it went. And overall it worked well.
That's good. I mean, is this now a new, tool in your planning toolbox? Be like, okay, we're going to go here. The kids are going to get pushed out and go here. Is that something you're thinking about, like strategizing how you're touring the parks whenever the next time?
I mean, definitely for sure. I mean, I definitely think that was one of the takeaways from this trip was whether it's specifically adults and kids separating or just splitting other combinations. Just doing that, not for the whole day or anything like that, but having moments where you can split off and separate into smaller groups. I definitely think we did that more this trip, and we'll continue to do that more in future trips.
All right, I have a question then. At what age would you feel comfortable with your daughter if you're having a resort day? She wanted to go to a park by herself. Oof. How old does she have to be? Okay, I'll break it up. Skyliner to the park and bus to the park. Because Skyliner to me is a little bit more secure, right? You're getting on it, and then you're.
So I will say, and this is kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but for our Epcot day, the kids were like done earlier, and I wanted to see the fireworks. So did my wife and stuff like that. So they actually went back to the resort by themselves a little earlier than us. So they took the bus back to the resort and that sort of thing. So I guess 14.
Yes, now we're good.
I think, for like being, doing her own day, like the rest of us are at Magic Kingdom and she goes to Epcot or something like that. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet.
But when would you think ready? Is that 16 plus?
I
18?
definitely think 16, and probably even next year, 15 or something. Just as you start building up the more, I guess you kind of baby step it up a little bit. I guess. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't. I say this now. I've got my oldest is 10. Like I said, I don't foresee we'll be somewhere. My wife and I be like, we don't want to go to any parks. You go off by yourself. I'm like, I'm going to want to go to the park. So it's I don't know if I can, do that, but maybe she'll have an independent streak. Like, I don't want to be with you. Can I go to Epcot by myself? And I'm like, no, you can't. You have to stay with the family. Okay. That's interesting. So, Animal Kingdom day, you've now had a wonderful lunch. What did you say? You probably ate that around 3-4 o'clock, you said?
No, this was a little earlier than that because we hadn't done that much at this point. We'd just done Dino Land and Expedition Everest. So I think we ate at about 12:30, done about 1:30.
Really? I mean, you got in the park at 11. You did the whole rotation back in Africa in about an hour and a half. Wow.
Yeah. I told you lines were nothing at that point. So we met up with the kids at about 2:30. They had gotten food from like Starbucks and stuff like that. So we just met them outside and then we all went up to do the safari together. One thing, it had started raining again, not like pouring, but like a solid rain. And it was kind of interesting. The first time we'd ever done the safari when it was raining that much. And it was interesting to see how the different animals react to that. So you saw all like the giraffes are kind of huddled together, trying to hide from it. Meanwhile, the hippo was like out of the water and was like loving life, in the rain and stuff like that. So
that's cool.
So we got to see, I think, the animals doing different stuff than we've seen in the past, which was cool. The only thing we didn't really see was the lions, but otherwise I think it was a really, really good safari. We then went to do the Festival of the Lion King, which is one of our favorite shows. I know that was going in, I was asking, okay, we did that last time. Do you want to do this again? Would you want to do the Nemo show? But everyone's just like, we just like Festival of the Lion King. We just want to do that again. Enough. So it's like, all right. Then at this point, we're looking at wait times and stuff like that. They had started to come down in Pandora and stuff like that. So we left after the Festival of the Lion King, went down into Pandora.
What time is this now?
So right now it's so after doing the safari and the show, it's probably around 4ish.
Okay.
Flight of passage was 28 minutes, so not too bad.
Was that posted or was that the actual?
So that was, I think posted was like 30. So it was pretty close, or 30, 35.
Okay.
So it was pretty close. It was a little bit, I think it was just a little less. One thing like I found on this trip, I don't know if anybody uses the Lines app for touring plans, but they have in there where you can kind of help them out. So you time yourself while you're in line, and then you can submit it and say, this is how much my actual weight was. One thing I noticed was their timing goes to not to the pre-show, but until you're actually on like the ride vehicle. So for Rise, it says stop it when you're about to get into the like black ride vehicle, not the first pre-show. So if you see on Lines, it's saying it's 30 minutes. You're probably only 20 something to that first pre-show.
Okay.
So after that, we were kind of at the point where like, okay, if we're going to do stuff back at the resort, we probably need to start heading out. You know, it's getting closer to 5 and that sort of thing. So we're like, well, what do we want to do last? So Navi River was posted at like 25 or something like that. But then I know my girls really wanted to do Kali River Rapids. And that was listed as like a 5-minute wait. So I was like, okay, we'll split up. I'll take them over to Kali River. Once you have the walk over to there plus the 5-minute wait, it's probably going to be the same as what you're going to have for Navi River.
Sure.
Unfortunately, the estimations for both were way off. For Navi River turned out to be a walk-on.
Oh, wow.
And Kali River was a 30-minute wait. So we kind of got a little...
I've never seen Kali River at 30-minute waits, even on a busier day.
I don't know what it was. I guess it's just a slow loader, or I don't know what it was, but it took a while. So my wife's like, yeah, we're done waiting for you. We're over here. We're like, yeah, we're not even like close to there. And my son was definitely getting antsy and stuff like that. So we're like, all right, let's finish up as soon as we can. So then we headed back. It was probably around 5:30ish that we ended the park. Definitely a little later than I thought, but you know, it is what it is. I still feel like we got a good amount and different things than we did the last time we were at Animal Kingdom in December.
Well, let me ask you this. So you had your lunch and everything else. Let's say you did get there at 8:30 for rope drop or early morning entry. Would you think that you would have stayed the same amount of time? So it looks like you got about 5-ish hours at the park, roughly?
Yeah, we got there 11. We left about 5:30. So probably about
6.
6 hours or so minus, lunch. I think we would have left a little bit earlier, probably like maybe an hour and a half earlier.
So would you still have gone? Was the plan still to go to your plan? Still was to go to Tiffin's, but you would have finished your day at Tiffin's basically versus it being in the middle.
It would have been in the middle. It's just we would have started at 9 o'clock or something like that, and then Tiffin's would have been in the middle, and then we would have done a couple hours and left at say 4:30 versus 5:30.
So there is a strategy I've been thinking of with Animal Kingdom. Instead of rope dropping and going crazy, especially with everybody else rope dropping, if you go in midday and instead of starting your day at Pandora, you finish your day at Pandora. Is that a strategy that can work?
Yeah, I mean that's roughly what we did. I mean, obviously it was kind of a lighter day anyway because of the the hurricane was still around and it was just a slower week. But yeah, I think the big thing is a lot of people do Animal Kingdom in the morning, and if they have hoppers, hop to another park once they can. So once you get to like 3-4 o'clock, wait times definitely go down at most of the places. Like I said, the Pandora lines, less 28 minutes for Flight of Passage and like nothing for Navi River. So we would, even if you don't want to wait all the way to the end of the day, just do other stuff like do Dinosaur, do Expedition Everest, see the shows, and then do the safari and the Pandora stuff, the stuff that gets the longer waits later.
Very good. So I know you had planned for some resort time once you finally got back. What time did you get at the resort and what did you do? Yeah,
so we actually took, so obviously for those of you that don't know, Port Orleans Riverside is somewhat connected to another resort, Port Orleans French Quarter. What we decided to do was take a bus down to the French Quarter and have dinner at their quick service location. So we were there probably around 6:30. They actually had quite a lot of sort of kind of Creole type New Orleans type food there and stuff. So I got a gumbo, which I thought was pretty good and was a big portion. And my wife got the salmon with 2 sides. Mm-hmm. The kids got a pizza, and I don't know if this is the price everywhere, but it was a whole large cheese pizza, and it was $18.99 for the whole pizza. So I thought that was, so we got that, and the kids kind of split that. That seemed pretty economical for that. Got some drinks at the bar that was nearby. and kind of also got some beignets from the cafe there where they make the Mickey shaped beignets. Fortunately, we were kind of full at that point, so we didn't really do justice to the beignets, but they were definitely good. We figured we had to get them, and they were good.
I was just thinking, just go back to the pizza, $18. I think my local pizza here in Maryland, and it's like maybe $14 to $16 depending on the pizzeria. So that's Disney prices. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're like, well, let's just get the whole pie, and then like that fed 3 people for less than $20 at Disney. It's pretty good.
That's perfect. Yeah.
So then we took the boat back to our resort because we could have walked the whole way, but we figured we have the boat available. Let's do that. Olivia took my son back to the resort because they were just kind of like done. My youngest and my wife and I went to the Roost, I think it's called, where Yeehaw Bob was performing at Port Orleans Riverside. I'd never seen him live. Really entertaining, super energetic. Lots of kind of old cheesy songs a little bit, but like everyone is super into it, and he messes with the audience. There's a lot of like crowd participation and stuff. My wife and I loved it. My youngest was like, this is way too loud. I don't know what's going on. Like she was just not having a good time. So we didn't stay too long, but we did get to see, a handful of songs. And then we went back. One thing we promised the kids is we would do swimming that night. So we did take them swimming. Unfortunately, there was a pool party that night, and it had a starting time, but it didn't have an ending time. I guess it didn't go on that long. So by the time we got there, it was already done and stuff like that. But we did a little bit of swimming and got to bed at the end around 10:30 at night.
It's not a bad day. I mean, you basically slept all morning. You had a fun day at Animal Kingdom. Any regrets of the day? I mean, you had a rough start, but it seems like it went pretty well.
In the end, it worked out okay. Like I said, it definitely took me having to adjust mentally. Obviously, and we did make some adjustments, and you'll see those in the next morning, how we adjusted and learned and adjust. But yeah, I think if it was one of those things where if the kids told me a little bit earlier, like, no, we need more time. No, we want to get real breakfast and stuff like that. Then I could have planned a little bit more versus like, I thought we were getting going. Why aren't we getting going? Aren't you ready? Oh, wait, now you're hungry. Why are you only telling me now that you're, like that sort of a thing. So I think, and that's kind of where the adjustment happened the next day.
So, okay. So what was your plans for your last day at Epcot?
Yeah, so we had a couple special things planned for that day. One thing I thought I'd mention at the beginning, though, is if you listen to our pre-trip report, we had planned to do breakfast at Garden Grill at Epcot. The plan was to, again, we were going to sleep in and stack, get there in time to do breakfast, like a late breakfast, 10 o'clock breakfast. Ultimately, we decided to cancel that breakfast. Just was taking up too much time of the day along with the other things we were planning to do. And we're like, how are we going to fit in the rides we want to do? And to be honest, after dropping the money for Sebastian's, I was like, I didn't mind cutting another table service restaurant. And I think looking back, that was definitely the right call. So what we did was we did have a better plan in the morning. We talked about it the night before, like, are you going to want real breakfast? And everyone kind of agreed that they would. Excuse me. So what we did was, one thing I really liked is you can mobile order breakfast and then like kind of just go pick it up and bring it back to the room, which is what I did. And everyone, I think, had a much better kind of just go with it with the morning. And we had a much better kind of start to the day. We did obviously get up for 7 o'clock because we wanted to get, we were buying Genie Plus. Also wanted to try for a boarding group virtual queue for Guardians. And then I also wanted to get an individual lightning lane for Guardians. So we were successful in all of those. We got boarding group 4 for Guardians. I had Genie Plus. I got a 9:10 return for Remy the Rat. And then I got an individual lightning lane for Guardians. I didn't know exactly when. I just did it in the afternoon for like 4:45.
Okay.
Excuse me. We did a lot better in the morning. We wound up getting to the park pretty much right after 9 a.m. So much better start than the night before. So at that point, our boarding group had already been called for Guardians. So we went over there first. Unfortunately, while we were in line, the ride went down.
I've never seen that, by the way.
So that was a little disappointing, kind of, messed with the timing a little bit. But we did get, obviously, they changed it over to an anytime lightning lane return so we could come back. And kind of we figured we would just then do it sort of back to back with our individual lightning lane. We then went over to ride Remy, which we definitely enjoy. I know sometimes people aren't huge fans of that ride, but it's, I think some of the screens work better than others, but I think it's a cute ride. I like that some of it's in French and stuff like that. So we greatly enjoyed the ride, had a good time on that.
Let me
yeah.
say this about Remy, and I'll say this in any of my trip report. I love what they did with the whole Paris and French Pavilion look.
Yeah.
Getting deep in there, I think that looks great. The music is just really conducive to a theme park, or I mean, like it's whimsical, it's light. There's a nice melody to it, and it's great background music. And once you get in there, the lighting is very comfortable. I think the whole queue and everything else about it just feels like Disney, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing I dislike about Fantasyland and Magic Kingdom, there's no attractions that are like this, where you just get a feel of immersion in that land, because everything else is just like strict hard queue and like old rides, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I love Remy, and anybody that wants to badmouth it, you can talk to me about it.
Yeah, it's and overall, like when you add in all that and the courtyard they built and stuff, I think it's a really nice addition to the park.
100%.
After we scanned in for Remy, we were able to get a 10:50 return time for Frozen. So on our way over to that, we did stop at La Helle's for some snacks, the little kind of quick serve area in France, and to get in some air conditioning, which would be a big theme for this day. I think just the week and everything was getting to my son. It was August. It wasn't crazy hot for most of the week, but this day was the hottest day. The real feel got up to like 107. Ooh. And it being our last day there, and he was tired, like it just started getting to him. So he was wearing down a lot. And so we had a lot of kind of how do we deal with him, and kind of just making sure we got some air conditioning breaks and like, okay, do you need food? What do you want? And he was kind of shutting down a little bit. So we had to manage him a little bit that day. We then went over to ride Frozen, which we do still enjoy. I have to say, after seeing the animatronics on the one that are going in at Hong Kong, I believe it is, that are not the projection faces, but actual animatronics, I'm really hoping they bring those here.
Frozen deserves real rides.
Yeah.
In Florida. I mean, not remade Maelstrom rides.
Yeah. And I mean, I like the ride. There's definitely areas where you could tell they had a lower budget, where you can kind of see where the budget went and where they ran out of money. But
well, let's make a prediction extremely early. Let's say Frozen 3 still gets made. Let's say Frozen 3 is a $1 billion+ movie like all the other ones were. Mm-hmm. Does Disney World get a Frozen area attraction at some point within the 5 years after the next movie, whenever that is?
I don't know. I just don't know where they would put it. I know there was some rumor that maybe that would be part of the Beyond Big Thunder or something. I don't know. I mean, you'd think they'd want to fit it in somewhere.
Will it happen?
Yeah.
We don't have to say where to go, anything. Will we
If the third one's a hit, I think they will, because then it becomes a full-on franchise. This is lasting, 100 years from now, people will still be talking about Frozen. Like,
this will be 8 years from now, and God willing, we're still doing this podcast for a decade.
So you can call me on it or not, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm making a note right now.
So I would say at today, I wouldn't say they would. But if the third one, there is a third one, and that one's a hit and stuff, right? With that caveat, then I said they'll figure it out.
All right. So you basically have done every single ride you have.
Yeah, so we did Remy and Frozen so far, and then after we scanned in for Frozen, we got a lightning lane for Test Track for
which is lucky, because usually you can't get the trifecta like that easy.
I was following it and leading up to it. Obviously, we were going the end of the summer, which is a little bit slower, and they had been actually lasting. That you had a good shot at getting them on a more crowded day. Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. But when the lower crowds are, you definitely could this summer, I think. So we were able to do that. On our way over, we stopped at one of the food booths, the Fry Basket. We really liked the yuca fries there. The fried pickles that everyone was going on about, I thought they were good, but maybe the hype had me expecting even better. We rode Test Track. I have to say, my kids really love the design part of that, like where you design your car. I hope whatever they're doing now for the new version doesn't take that away, but I guess we'll have to see.
I don't think they'll take away the design element of it. I think they realize that's kind of like a cool part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But hopefully the ride itself is actually more entertaining. We'll see.
I will say my oldest, she designed the car. She's like, I'm just putting everything into power. And at the end, when they put up the score, she had the highest score for the entire day for power. By the end of it. So she did what she was designing.
Succeeded.
Yeah. So basically right after noon, we had gotten the big 3 done. So I think that turned out to be a good use of Genie Plus. I will say after that, we probably didn't need it for anything else we rode. Most things were kind of walk on. We were using it anyway, but we probably didn't really need it.
I always say that Genie Plus at Epcot is basically a $15 lightning lane or individual lightning lane for test, Frozen, and Remy's. Basically, everything else is like you're saving 5 minutes if you use it.
Exactly.
At this point. Okay, so you've basically done the World Showcase. Now you're heading back into the neighborhoods. You're heading what? No, it's not time for Guardians yet, right?
No, so now it was time to walk over to the Land Pavilion because we had booked a behind the scenes tour, which is the tour that takes you into the greenhouses and around where Living with the Land goes.
Your wife was probably in heaven.
Yes. I mean, my whole family loves that ride, so they were all very excited for this. But yeah, my wife was geeking out a little bit, as was I. I mean, anytime you get to go backstage and
Sure.
My kids were like, why are you taking a photo of that? And I was like, because it's like, the tunnel you come through on the boat, that's the outside of that tunnel. You never get to see the outside of the tunnel, like things like that.
Where do you go in for that attraction or that tour? Where do you
so the desk is kind of near where Soarin' is. So that's where you check in for it, and you go down sort of where people come out of Soarin'. There's a door that way, and that takes you backstage. And that was kind of right by that where the boats come back in from the greenhouse area into kind of like the ending scene. That tunnel is kind of right where you go. That door opens out into.
And how many other people were with you other than your family?
So the tour was probably around 18 to 20 people.
Oh, it's a good crowd then.
Yeah, so it's not like super intimate, but it's not huge or anything. And they give you the little whisper earpieces so you can hear what the person's saying and stuff like that. So,
okay, very cool.
Overall, it was about an hour long. You get a lot of cool information about what they grow, how they grow it, like how it changes out, how they grow things that like the chefs want, and so they'll figure out how to grow it, how things change. You got to try one of the cucumbers without having to climb out of one of the boats to get it. They had this like plant that like when you touch it, it like shrivels up, and like I guess it's like its natural instinct to. I guess the idea is that it's supposed to be if a raindrop hits it, it closes up on the raindrop to get the water, but it responds to any touch. So everyone got to kind of touch it and see the plant react like instantly. It was kind of cool.
That's kind of neat.
You got to feed the fish. So,
very
so
awesome.
in the aqua area, so everyone all at once puts it in, the fish go like nuts. It's crazy. I took a little video of it. So it was definitely fun. It's only like $35 or something like that. So it's not very expensive.
That's Disney cheap.
Yeah, Disney cheap. You definitely have to be into that ride. It's a lot of information about the greenhouses and stuff like that. So if you're like, I don't like Living with the Land, then you won't like the tour. But if you enjoy that ride, I think you would like the tour.
So it sounds like it was totally worth an hour out of your day.
Oh yeah,
to go back there.
Absolutely,
awesome.
Yeah. So right after that, we went over and we're meeting up with our good cast member friend and her daughter and boyfriend, and we were going to get to do our preview of Journey of Water, which we covered in a past episode, so I'm not going to go into it that much, but obviously we greatly enjoyed our time, and I've been jealous of all the people now that I've been seeing that got to do previews at night because it looks really cool at night, but we still are very appreciative and really enjoyed our time there, so just something. It's always cool to get to do something like a little special, I think. Previously, we had made a Lightning Lane return for Soarin', so we went and used that. That probably saved 15, 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. We made one for Living with the Land because we're like, well, just in case a little line. I think it actually took us longer because there was literally no line. So we actually had to pause to scan in. The people that didn't have to scan in were like what got in front of us. I think it took us longer using the Lightning Lane, but it is what it is. And afterwards, we stopped at Sunshine Seasons for a little bit of food because Peter was kind of like, I need to spend more time in air conditioning. I need food and stuff like that. The plan then was to do some of the food and wine booths. But my son still was like, I want to be inside. So we stopped at a couple booths to get food and then went into the Mexico pavilion to kind of be in the air conditioning, but kind of eat some of the food we got. And we also wanted to try one of the new margaritas that had just debuted that day at La Cava.
Very nice.
So we got that. And, we did the best we could because there aren't really tables there. My son was like, can't we go use those tables? I'm like, oh no, that's for the restaurant. He's like, can't you ask them if we can use one of them? I'm like, no, you have to eat at the restaurant, Pete. I'm sorry. So I'm like, well, there's a fountain over there. Why don't you sit on the ledge there and eat your food there and stuff like that. And then meanwhile, my youngest is like, it's cold. I want to be outside. I'm like, okay, well, one of them wants to be inside, one of you wants to be outside. What are we going to do about this?
Yeah.
So what we ultimately decided to do was stop and get a few more food things and go into the brewing labs area, which was, for those of you who don't know, they themed it this year with the Muppets, but it's where they have different flavors of buffalo wings, and that's also where they have the, I guess now infamous, pickle milkshake. I have to say, this space was great. It's just tons of tables, tons of room, well air conditioned. They have all the theming for the Muppets. Every couple minutes, a video comes on with Bunsen doing something funny with Beaker. My wife found some of them, like, she was losing it. She was laughing so hard at some of them, so it was fun. We got some of the food there. We did get the pickle milkshake, which I actually liked. Nobody else in the family did. We got the orange cardamom wings, which were really good, and we got the cider flight my wife and I shared, and that was all good. So honestly, looking back on it, we probably should have thought of this as like our home base and kind of just stayed there and went out and got some stuff and came back and went out and got some stuff, because it was just very relaxing and easygoing and air conditioned.
I mean, I wouldn't even mind being like, tell the wife, okay, you hang out with the kids, and then I will go do all the walking, and then stroll Epcot all by yourself in peace. That I think, to me, that sounds like a good compromise, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. My understanding from hearing things from like people talking is they kind of like this setup, and the plan is to use the Odyssey building for more of the festivals. I guess that's almost like a mini festival pavilion. So I hope it sticks around, because I think it's just having that place where people can go and sit and stuff like that is valuable.
Because they need more tables throughout the World Showcase for a lot of this stuff. Because when I was there for the in December, trying a couple different things, and I hate eating and walking at the same time, especially with like all my kids pulling at me. Let me have some. And you don't have enough of those like bar top type of tables where you not a chair, but like somewhere where you can put stuff. And that's why I guess everybody uses garbage cans and stuff like that. So that's pretty good. So now you're basically, hopefully your kids are body temperatures are equalized.
Yep.
They're eating, and I think it's got to be time for Guardians.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we did. I think it was around, a little bit after 4 at this point. So we decided to go down to Cosmic Rewind. It was also looked like it was going to start raining. It actually was drizzling a little bit by the times we were going. So we rode we used, I think, our Lightning Lane return time to go ride. And we were wondering, this is our first time getting to ride it with the regular songs. The last time it was just the holiday ones.
Yep.
So we're very excited about it. And we didn't know which one we were going to get. It turned out we got September, which I understand is like the best one. So we're very excited about that. And so we greatly enjoyed the ride. I think this is just such a fun ride, and you can't help but like smile while you're on it and stuff like that. And that song fits really well.
Well, let me ask you this before you go on to the second one, unless you want to say the second one first.
It's okay.
Okay. So if you're going to compare being on it with the overlay, which I don't think they're doing anymore, right? The announcement.
At the very least, it wasn't announced that they're doing it. So the assumption is it's not happening.
Right.
Yeah.
So comparing the two experiences, how much do the original songs add to the attraction, in your opinion?
I think it adds a lot. I think it's just the whole thing about, I mean, those music and songs like that are so associated with the characters in the movies and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, the holiday songs really aren't. It just fits so much better. And like,
I didn't think the holiday song was very good when I was on it in December. It was kind of like a mishmash. It's like, whatever. It's like somebody had a random song on like next to me while we're on this really cool ride.
Yeah.
It didn't fit.
So, I mean, I'm glad they tried that. I appreciate overlays whenever they do it. But I prefer definitely the non-overlaid version. It started raining a little bit harder, so some of us put on ponchos. It wasn't really that far of a walk to get from the exit to the entrance again, but it is outside. So we scanned in again, and we're all excited. All right, what's the next song we're going to get? And we get September. So we've actually, what? If we're going to get the same song twice, that's probably the one to get, though. But it was funny the first time, because obviously we're a group of 5, so we're always going to have like a stranger with us. And I know other people have ridden it like 10, 12 times and have never gotten September. She said she's ridden it like 20 something times, and this was only the second time she got it or something. So it's just funny that we've only ridden it twice.
That's
we got it. We also had an interesting thing where I guess spoilers a little bit, but before the big backwards launch, it like delayed, and they had like extra audio and stuff like that. And I don't know if it was like a timing thing or something like that, where they fit in like an extra joke and people talking and stuff like that. But it was different than the first time. And I showed it to other people like, oh yeah, that's not normal or whatever. So it was kind of interesting, but everyone's kind of like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden it just took off like when you weren't expecting it. So it was kind of interesting. So after that, we rode that. We had gotten a lightning lane for Spaceship Earth. Again, the lightning lane did not help us at all. But we did that. Always loved that ride. Definitely could still use some TLC, at least fix up the ending or add a new scene or something like that. But it's still such a classic Epcot ride. We love it. Then we had some more frustrations. This was where I started losing it a little bit. It wasn't my proudest dad moment, I will admit. Kids decided they were tired. And so they said, okay, well, why don't you guys go back to the resort? You know, my oldest daughter has charging privileges. She can get them some food if she wants. And you guys just chill out in the room and get some air conditioning, maybe take showers, whatever you want to do. This way, my wife and I can do some more of the food booths because we'd really only gotten to a couple at that point. Right. We had a lot more we wanted to get to. And I wanted to watch the fireworks. So did my wife. We both like Epcot forever. But then one of them was like, okay, but before we go, I wanted to ride Journey into Imagination. We didn't get to ride that. I was like, all right, well, my son wanted to do the game type things that are at the end of Spaceship Earth. So we're like, okay, give him some time to do that. I'll take you to do Journey into Imagination, and then you guys will leave. Then my oldest is like, oh, and I wanted to go to the store in Japan.
No.
I'm like, why are you telling me now when we're at the front of the park, not when we were, by Japan? And so and she's like, okay, fine, but you're just not letting me do what I want to do on vacation. I'm like, oh, really?
Oh, no. So I just like, well, you know what? You can go home right now. Here's a plane ticket. Get out.
So I was like, all right, let's go. So I start trudging up there. We're in the store forever. She can't decide what she wants. She wants some shirt. They don't have it in her size. And I'm like, this is taking forever. Like,
well, here's my hot take about the Japanese store. It's an awesome store. There's a lot of cool stuff that's in there, right? I hate that store because I'm not a big browser of things. Like I can go through, I can walk past a whole counter. I can check it all out. And I'm like, okay, I've been here for 10 minutes. Let's go. Meanwhile, my wife's very has to touch everything, has to see everything, has to try. I'm like, can we go? Can we go? Can we go? I've seen all this. Can we go?
Yeah.
Can we go? Can we go? I mean, I hate bringing my family in there because I know we're losing an hour and a lot of money.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt. But she was using her own money at least, and it was what it was. All right. So then we head back, and I meet up with my wife and my son. And then all of a sudden, my youngest goes, I'm starving. I'm like, why are you telling me this now? Not when we were passing 17 different food booths and 5 different restaurants where we could have gotten you food.
If you're not watching this and just listening to the podcast, Phil's camera keeps shaking because he's pounding the table
Sorry about
for
that.
effect. So no, it really adds to the frustration of it. I'm feeling you, man. I'm feeling you.
So we went back to the Connections Eatery and got her some food. And at this point, I was kind of like fed up. I'm like, let's just all go. Let's just leave. I'm done. Blah blah blah. And I could tell my kids were like, could tell I was not happy with them at the moment. Not my finest moment. I have to give my wife a ton of credit. She came over and she was like, look, this is what we're going to do. You're going to sit there for a little bit and chill out. And I'm going to go to one of the food booths where there was there was stuff at the China booth we both really wanted. So she was like, I'm going to go do that. Then you're going to find a spot to watch the fireworks. Olivia's going to take the other 2 home and we're going to have like a nice evening and you're going to have a good time. And it was like, okay. We made a decision. I was like, fine, let's do that. And it turned out to be a really nice thing. We had, just a little bit of time to decompress and not be around the kids and that sort of thing. And
very nice. Very nice.
And I have to say the food at the China booth was excellent. The duck bao buns were incredible. So I highly recommend those. They also have a hot honey drink that was really good too. So definitely recommend those. But we kind of got our spot. One thing I like about whether it's Epcot Forever or anything that's not Harmonious, as much as I liked Harmonious, it's nice to not have to plan out like where are you going to watch the show from. So we just found a spot right by the railing, 5 minutes before the show started, maybe 10 minutes. Had a great view. Really enjoy the show. I mean, you can tell it's a bit of a filler in between show, but if they kind of ramped it up, maybe changed the ending, I think you could have a legit show there. But we'll see what the new show is. I'm excited for it. But it turned out to be a really nice time, and the kids got to go head back a little bit early and veg in the air conditioning, and I think they were in a much better mental space when we got back too. So it worked out well.
So this was the end of your trip, and just for the sake of time, There is a segment, Three Little Things, that you want to
Yep.
do. Let's save that for.
Yeah, let's save that for
week.
next time. But I did want to just mention something quick on for our last day. We did have some time because our flight wasn't until 6. We were going to do some Disney Springs, but before that, there was some stuff at the resort my son wanted to do. He wanted to do the Surrey bikes, which are like the 4-person pedal bikes.
Yeah.
We didn't realize you have to be 58 inches tall to pedal, and he's definitely not that. So he was bummed about that and that sort of thing. And then I was like, well, they have the fishing hole there. Maybe I'll take you go fishing. Fortunately, another cast member that was there like overlooked it and saw how kind of bummed my son was. He's like, how about? It's like, why don't I give you guys a magical moment? Let's go out on the pontoon boat and go fishing.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we got to go out for like an hour on the pontoon boat. He took us around to different spots, teaching the kids how to fish, and just kind of like, it was just kind of another one of those like extra special things that you weren't planning on and turned out to be a really nice moment. So
what a way to wrap up your stay there with something like that. That is.
So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. That was really good. And obviously we gave him a cast compliment and all that stuff, and I slipped him a tip and that sort of thing. So it was just having those like extra moments definitely helps make the trip feel special. So
yeah,
wanted to make sure I mentioned that part.
All right, so we're just showing up on an hour here, and there's one thing that we've been preaching forever, and there's been a couple moments I wanted to kind of intersperse in the conversation, but I wanted to save it all to the end. Is we've been talking about a vacation in the vacation.
Yep.
And the first day was your arrival day. And basically the only hard appointment you had to do was dinner.
Yep.
So let's go day by day. Where did you find the vacation in the vacation on your arrival day?
I think it was just taking it easy, and this will probably be more of a theme for the whole week. Like, how did we do this? It's going to sound weird, but I feel the days where we had kind of downtime scheduled into the day worked better. Yes. So like, we didn't have much planned purposely on our arrival day. It's like, we took it easy. We went to the pool, we ordered food, whatever. And then we had the dinner
riding and everything.
Exactly. Whereas like the days where we planned to get to Animal Kingdom early and we weren't able to, and I had to adjust on the fly. Those were the ones where
I'm going to go day by day.
Okay.
Let's talk about, because this is going to be a theme. I've been thinking about this for the last 30 weeks because this is how long the trip report's been. So your first day, you just said, okay, we're just going to dinner, and then you found time to swim, you found time to get ready, you did a couple extra monorail routes for your son, which I'm assuming he loved tremendously.
Yep.
Your fullest day was your next Magic Kingdom day, right? That was It was your first full day.
That was our first full day. It was rope drop to close and no real.
You had
breaks.
a full day,
yeah,
but you did not have Genie Plus, which allowed you to kind of just stop and smell the rose, even though you were moving.
Yeah.
You weren't stuck staring at your phone thinking about when was the next time I can book, when it can modify, all this other stuff. So talk to me about, I knew we talked about this last week, but like, was that a better way of doing Magic Kingdom, you think?
I think, and obviously every day is different, crowd levels impact things and stuff like that. But for us, it worked out really well. It was, taking some of the extra things we wouldn't normally do because we said, hey, there's a 5-minute wait for Barnstormer. Let's ride Barnstormer. Like, let's take the train over to Frontierland and get around the parade that way because it makes sense. It's kind of like we had some strategy and stuff to it, but it wasn't like that in-park project management that it felt like when you were doing Genie Plus, especially in Magic Kingdom, because there's so many rides you're trying to get in on.
I have two other questions about Magic Kingdom. So real quick, is Genie Plus a necessary evil for Magic Kingdom? As in, I'd rather it be like that all the time? Because obviously, if the crowd levels are a couple numbers higher than they were, you can't do what you did. So on top of that, I'm assuming you would call it a necessary evil with a evil as I'm using that word purposefully.
Yeah, I would say for most people's trip, especially if you're someone who only goes every couple years and maybe you only have one Magic Kingdom day, or if you have 2 days, I would say definitely get at least one of the days. It is kind of a necessary evil to get in all the rides you're going to want to get in.
Yeah, and then the other part, it sounded like you were actually exploring Magic Kingdom with your family. It wasn't like, we got to go here, we got to go here, we have to go here. It was like you got to walk through the park and experience the park with a fresh set of eyes rather than the headspace of planning, FastPass Plus refreshing.
Yeah, it was definitely more touring it kind of by land, I guess, by segment, kind of like, okay, let's do the stuff in Tomorrowland and then let's do Storybook Circus and they'll take it around versus we have a specific destination of this ride for this Genie Plus return time. It was much, again, we had looking at wait times, had some strategy and stuff like that, but it was definitely kind of segment by segment or land by land versus specific ride.
So what was it like then on the next party day to not have to do anything until like 3:00? Did that kind of, because I've always been a proponent of, if you take a day off, you do whatever, it gives you time to kind of relax and stop and be in the sun, if the sun was out that day.
Yep.
And just kind of, it makes the day feel longer and the days before and after more impactful. So what was it like just not having anything to do until 4:00? And then even then you didn't have to do anything in the park. You just got to enjoy it as well.
So I would
Other
say,
than Tron, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would say the one problem with that was when you have so much time like that, the way my brain works is like, well, I got to fill it with something. And like kind of looking back on it, especially knowing we didn't have as much resort time on Thursday in the end, I kind of wish we didn't do Disney Springs and we just did resort time that day and really relaxed and chilled and just hung by the pool and that sort of thing. Like really tried to vacation it. I just kind of felt like, well, we have the whole day. We got to do something for part of it. But by the time you kind of do the travel and get to things like, Disney Springs isn't like an hour thing, like that's a multi-hour commitment.
It's a half a day at the very least.
Yeah. So looking back on it, I think that was an opportunity where we probably could have taken the whole vacation and the vacation even a little further. But it's still,
you wouldn't have cookies for breakfast.
That's true.
I mean, I don't know if we can sacrifice it. Okay. So then your next day was your Hollywood Studios day. Again, you purposely took the morning off on that one. Did you feel like the stacking strategy worked? It was sleeping for stacking or stacking for sleeping or whatever you want to call it.
I call it sleeping and stack. I thought it worked really well there. It's almost like what we did in December where we hopped over there from another park. But yeah, you kind of stack up a couple of the rides that get long lines there. I thought it worked really well. It was kind of interesting because I think my wife didn't believe me when I said we were going to go in like at noon or after. She's like, "Oh, what are we getting in? Like 10 or something?" I was like, "No rush. Like we'll get there when we get there." Like,
who are you?
Yeah, exactly. I think I threw her off. Yeah. But I think that day, it was a great morning. Obviously we had the negative of the rain coming and kind of, pun intended, put a damper on things. I think we did adapt well by deciding to take the break and go to do Sebastian. So that was probably
here's my point. Like, because you had the mentality of the vacation, right? And then on top of that, you gave yourself the ability to be flexible.
Yeah.
And like you took a detour to Sebastian's. And that was a wonderful moment. And you didn't feel the pressure of having to be in the park and take it. Like, if you can get rid of our might be stupid mentality of like calculating how much dollars you're spending per hour and all this other Genie Plus calculations that you did a couple of weeks ago and all this other stuff, where you can go in and enjoy the park, you can leave and have some food, you can come back and enjoy the park, and you're in and out, but you're able to like choose a different direction to go, but still plan it and get the things you wanted to be done. I mean, you could do that at Hollywood Studios because there isn't too much to do there. Realistically. Do you think, and here's my question, do you think you're going to plan flexibility into your vacations, right? Like you're going to have like wild card spaces. That's how I kind of call them in my head.
I agree. I mean, I think that's what we kind of have to do is have, okay, that time is, we have a couple things that anchor the day or whatever, but you need to have those flex times in there. I mean, I think that was one of the reasons we canceled our Garden Grill lunch was because we felt like we didn't have enough flexible space in there. There was too much getting blocked up. So yeah, I think that's the best kind of plan to have, is to plan for flexibility, which is kind of a weird thing, but
it sets your own expectations right internally in your head, because our brains work the same, right? We're like, what do we got to do? We got to do this. We got to do this. And ultimately, after 3 or 4 days of doing that, you're like, what am I doing with myself? What just happened? It's like a whirlwind of vacation, right? So I have 2 more questions, and one of them's kind of a copy of it. Now that you have older kids that can either be responsible enough to kind of allow you and your wife to be alone, how much does having those alone moments enhance your vacation? Is this something that now it has to be done every single time?
Yeah, I don't know if that means it'll be a full Tiffin's lunch every time, but I think
hour here. Something like that.
Exactly. Like what we did the Friday night at Epcot. I mean, I think that really helped reset it and kind of recentered me. And I think those moments are important because, I mean, everybody's kids are different, but I'm sure 99% of your kids get on your nerves at times, and you need kind of those little bit of breaks. And when you're together 24/7 for a whole week in a pretty while it's vacation, it's still a little bit of a high stress environment. You kind of need those breaks. So again, maybe sometimes it's just breaking off. You go with one kid and do something or whatever. But I think now that the kids are over, having those moments where we're going to go grab a drink or something like that, you watch the kids for a little bit. I think at least like an hour, like you said, or something like that here or there, absolutely will be part of every trip going forward.
Because that just reminds me of our Animal Kingdom Day in December. We talked about my trip report a year ago, was that the kids were doing some night swimming, and my wife and I just sat on like some chairs at the pool at Caribbean Beach and just kind of like, the kids are off doing their own thing. We just kind of, it was like almost empty, and we were just kind of talking about our next Disney trip and what we would do, like just kind of decompressing. So I think that's important. And especially at night, once the day is done, which leads me to a last question about the vacation and the vacation. You had morning time where you were relaxing. You had a park day in the middle of the day where you had morning and evening kind of off time.
Yeah.
And you also had, you didn't, what you didn't have was the rush in the morning and getting back to the resort at say 2:00 where you have a whole evening to yourself, and you haven't had a full day off either. Unless you want to count your arrival day, which doesn't really count because you're up crack of dawn getting on a plane. What do you think is better for you mentally? And everybody's different. There's no wrong answer here. What do you like better? The morning off, the morning and night off, or the full evening off or afternoon off?
Yeah. So I don't think we got a good full evening off day, because that was supposed to be our Animal Kingdom day. But because the morning was so rough and we weren't able to leave as we wanted, we definitely didn't get the evening I envisioned. So it's hard for me to judge. I feel like that was something that was missing from this trip. And I feel, when you don't have the super long trips, it's a little hard to fit everything in.
Sure.
So for us, for managing,
what would you prioritize then? Like if you had to plan out the next trip a year from now, would you plan more sleep-in days, more evening days, or more parks smack dab in the middle days?
Yeah, I think I would try to do some other schedule, and I don't know the right way to do it, but maybe it's an off day or something, and then or 2 days where you do like an Animal Kingdom. I don't know the right way to get it, but I want to have something where we can get out early and then have the evening. And maybe it is we need to just book a full resort day, like no parks, no parties, no nothing. I think we need to fit that in next trip. But otherwise, I think the sleep in and stack worked really well for us because we were able to kind of ease into the morning. I went over to get breakfast and come back. Like it just kind of set the day up for success for us.
If Matt Pato's listening right now, and I know he will be, he's cheering out. See, I told you I'm not a rope dropper. This is the way to do it, right? So I think he's cackling with I told you so type of moment. I personally love the evening days because I wake up and go all the time. I don't need a lazy morning because when I have a lazy morning, I know I have to be somewhere at a certain time. So I can't relax in the morning knowing I have to get all the kids and my wife moving in a general direction, right? So I'm still kind of managing. But once the day is over, I don't care what happens for the rest of the day because it's just we're at the pool, we're at the resort. It's just relaxation for the next couple hours until everybody wants to go to sleep. And that to me, and we're going to talk about my potential upcoming trip because some plans are starting to come together. We're not going to crash it in here, but we talk about spaces of non-park rush time.
Yeah.
And we're structuring our vacation around those versus structuring the vacation around parks and the park cadence and all this other type of stuff. So I think that'll be a cool conversation to have when we start talking about that in a couple weeks or so. All right, we're way over here. So if you're still listening, we want to thank you for sticking around with us. Next week, we're going to go back to our normal show format, which is the new format, which wasn't as easy. But you've got a couple little tidbits that you're going to go over. Maybe we'll have that as a segment, and then maybe I'll pair it with 3 little things that annoys me during a trip and 3 little things that I loved for my previous trip. So I'll kind of mirror some of your things with my last trip. With that being said, thank you for watching and listening wherever you may be. Make sure you leave a comment and a like if you're on YouTube or a 5-star review on iTunes. It helps us out tremendously. We appreciate it. Join Discord, get in there and join the conversation. With all that being said, Phil, everybody, thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone.